Welcome back to another episode of the KarterKast. I'm your host, Karter Baughan. On today's show, it's just Dylan and I today. NFL Week 3 recap. We do panic button teams. It's Week 3. Some teams are 1-2, 0-3. What teams are we smashing the panic button on? We discuss that. Dylan?
Karter, I cannot believe who you had for your panic button team. I cannot
we get
believe
into
it.
That. Might be a little ESPN take-ish, We'll get into that, though. We talk about every single game from the NFL Week 3 slate. Is the Red Rifle, the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton, the savior in Carolina? Will Levis's rough day, 0-3 for the Titans. We get into everything from the NFL Week 3 slate. Download the SeatGeek app. Use code KarterKast. $20 off your first purchase. Dylan, let's get into the show today. We're live. Dylan, we're here. Football, Week 3. I'm so happy. Oh, my goodness. What a week of football. What a great weekend of football, Dylan.
Panthers
the
back.
Panthers are so bad. We'll get into that. That's later in the show. We can't start the A block with the Panthers 2 episodes in a row, Dylan. What a weekend of football. I'm so happy. The Carolina Panthers are back. Dylan, we're not doing Panthers talk right now. I just want to say this as a football fan. I forgot how much my football team dictates my mood. I didn't realize it.
Well, I did want to ask because last week on the preview show, NFL preview show, you were talking about, this is awful. We need to tank. We can't be winning games, and now we've changed the tune completely.
Oh, you can talk me into anything. I'm so gullible. You text me, I'm going this guy first touchdown in, regardless, because I'm a ride or die guy, but in. And yeah, I'm so back. We're so back. Keep pounding. But we're not going to talk about the Panthers starting the show today. Before we get into the show, we're brought to you by SeatGeek. Download the SeatGeek app or use code KarterKast at SeatGeek for $20 off your first purchase. $50 minimum purchase required. Go to SeatGeek.com. $20 off your first purchase. This is where I want to start the show today, Dylan. We're 3 weeks in. We're going into Week 4. There's a lot of teams that are 0-3, 1-2 that are struggling right now. Who are your panic button teams, Dylan? Start with your first one.
This is so my panic button team actually won yesterday. Won their first game yesterday. But there were a couple things that were a little concerning for me. And my first panic team, I'm going Baltimore Ravens.
I 100% agree with you. I didn't have them listed. They were third on my list. If they were just outside the ones I was going to say. I love that pick, and I'll let you go for your explanation, and I'll chime in.
Well, obviously, they pull out the win 28-25 against a good Cowboys team, right? And I think out of this game, if someone were to pull a panic button team, you'd think it's the Cowboys. But if you watch the end of that game, this is classic Baltimore Ravens football. They just let the Cowboys waltz their way back into this game. And you look at last year and how the Ravens performed late in games, it seems like nothing has changed here. They let teams just come right back. I think last year the big one was Cleveland, where they got outscored 24-14 in the second half, end up losing. They play the Steelers, get outscored 10-3 in the second half, end up losing. They play the Steelers again, get outscored 14-0 in the fourth quarter, and lose 17-10. So there are things here, obviously. The Ravens are a good team. I wasn't as high on them coming into this year as a lot of other people were. But when you see them, they didn't give up the lead, but relinquish a lead like they did against the Cowboys. It's like, this is just the same old Ravens team. This is the same old Ravens defense. And what's going to change? Because we saw it last year. I want to say we even saw it the year before. I don't have the data on hand. And it just is going to keep on happening. And I don't know what it's going to take to change it.
I 100% agree, and you made the point. They physically cannot maintain a lead.
No, and it's the defense. Like, for some reason, and I understand the defense is different this year than last year. I would say the defense last year was so much better than they are this year. But it's just, for some reason, they cannot stop offenses in the second half, fourth quarter.
And your casual football fan's going to see that score line and watch that game and go, oh, Lamar, he blows leads. Lamar, he blows leads. I don't really think it's a Lamar problem. I think it's actually everything around Lamar, which is so unusual for the Baltimore Ravens. It's the offensive line. It's the defense. The fact that they were up 28-3 and the Cowboys had a legitimate chance at winning that game, and the Cowboys were so dominant. And if you're watching the game, you're like, I should just live bet the Cowboys right now because they have all the momentum and the Ravens could not get a stop to save their lives.
And it was the Ravens offense that put that game on ice, right? They needed to make a third down conversion late in the game, and a great play call with the Lamar keeper. Like, it was, like you said, the casual fan might see it and be like, oh, Lamar can't close out games. The offense was the one that closed out that game yesterday. It was the defense that just let the Cowboys waltz back in. Now, I understand there are some points where you can say, they weren't playing prevent defense, but when you play a little too comfortable on defense, that's when things start to get a little hairy in terms of comebacks. Maybe they need to iron that out. I don't know. But in terms of teams that worry me, what did we say? What was the name of this segment?
Panic button teams.
Panic button teams. This was a huge concern for me in terms of Baltimore. And you look at their schedule, they have Buffalo next week. They have at Cincinnati. They get a little break there with Washington, Tampa Bay. At Cleveland, divisional game is always going to be tough, even if Cleveland is doo-doo dog cheeks, dog booty. There are tough games left on this schedule. They need to figure this out quick because they can't be giving up games to the Broncos. They can't be giving up games late to a Justin Herbert-less Chargers team. There's some things to figure out here for Baltimore.
Yeah, I'll go to the other side. I think the Cowboys are the panic button team, though.
No. They can't be. No, did you hear Dak? You're falling into his trap. He said, go ahead and get off now. Yeah, get off the train now. So
I'm fine getting off the train.
You're Dak number one hate list.
No, I wasn't on the train to begin with this season. I was never on the Cowboys train because the Cowboys' problem is, we talked about it, the running backs are terrible.
It's bad. It is bad, Karter. 55 rush yards?
Everyone's like, after the Browns game, everyone's sitting there like, ooh, this Cowboys team, that the running backs, y'all were clowning the running backs. Y'all were clowning the running backs. Well, guess what? In 2 games, they barely ran for over 100 yards. Barely ran for over 100 yards. This is a joke running back room. And also, this offense has one play. It's CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb and jet sweep CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, and also, I don't want this to come across as an anti-Dak thing. I think Dak's a really good quarterback. I don't think this is a Dak problem. It's lack of weapons on this offense. There's no one. And then also, when the offense becomes so stale, the defense has just fallen apart this season. The defense is terrible. And you go, okay, well, they did well against the Browns. The Browns, they only scored 17 points. Well, one, have you watched the Browns play football this season? Also,
yikes.
They gave up 28 points. They were getting obliterated against the Baltimore Ravens for 75% of that game. And then in the second half, it's much easier to play defense when you're going against a team that has a 4-touchdown lead against you. So and also you give up 44 points to the Saints. Who gives up 40-plus points to the Saints? Nobody in football does that.
What's concerning about Dallas's defense specifically is I saw a lot of sentiment after the Saints game. It's like, oh, this team's missing Deron Bland. Like, you get Deron Bland back, they're not going to – the Ravens didn't pass the ball. Like, they were so effective on the ground. No. They ran the ball so
Derrick
well.
Henry looked like prime Derrick Henry.
I think that's the most concerning thing is that against the Saints – people were trying to not make an excuse, but try to explain why Dallas struggled so much in the air. And now you have a team like the Ravens that comes in and just runs the ball down your throat. Derrick Henry looked great. Justice Hill had some great runs. That's the problem here, is that the Cowboys were not able to stop the run. And that's the one thing they should be able to do with Deron Bland out. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying. There wasn't enough for me to put the Cowboys in the pump the brakes because I didn't want to,
panic button.
I heard Dak. I didn't want to go against Dak, and I'm going to stay on the train with Dak. But
let me read you. I know we don't like reading schedules here, but I think this is an important part where this is why I also have hit the panic button on the Cowboys.
I got to ask real quick. When did we ever say that we're anti? I've never expressed anti-reading schedule sentiment. Have there been viewers that podcast listeners?
No, not viewers. Maybe some other people.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So at Giants Thursday Night Football, must win. That is a must win of all must wins.
Yeah,
they'll win that game. At Pittsburgh, we know this Pittsburgh defense. That's
good defense.
Tough game.
Swarming, Jussie.
Then it's home Lions, bye, at Niners, at Falcons, Eagles division game, home Texans. I mean, we're talking 2 wins in that stretch.
Texans might be frauds.
Well, we'll talk about that.
Just saying.
We'll
but I hear
about
what you're
them
saying.
later.
That's a tough little lineup there. You have to really turn
even
it
if
on.
you think they win the Texans game, they still got to beat the Steelers, and we've seen the Steelers team has the best defense in football right now.
No matter what we think, the Eagles will be tough. That'll be a tough game. Yeah, there's tough games there. They have to do something here, and that's what 1-2 now. The only win was against the Browns.
Yeah, and that's the problem is we knew this offseason. You're going into the Cowboys season this year. You go, oh wow, they did nothing. They addressed nothing in the offseason. They did absolutely nothing. They only got worse in the offseason. You have to add these weapons year in and year out, and they didn't add the weapons that they needed. The running back, I mean, this running back room is so bad. This running back room is somehow on par with the Chiefs running back room at this point. It's that bad, maybe even worse than the Chiefs.
But the Chiefs make it work.
Yeah, but because the Chiefs are geniuses and have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes.
You're telling me Mike McCarthy's not a genius?
I'm telling you Mike McCarthy's not a genius. Who's your other panic button team?
I mean, I think you have to go Browns here. And this is
I don't
vanilla.
even know if it's a panic button. I just think it's over.
Yeah, and I guess maybe Browns, maybe Deshaun Watson if you want to go outside the box. But this is kind of a boring take. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you go ahead. I think I might I don't want to spoil what you're going to say.
No, it's a boring take because it's very obvious. 1-2, that they lost to the Giants. Daniel Jones looked as good as he ever has. Malik Neighbors coming out party. The defense was the one unit that the Browns could hang their hat on, and you let the Giants score 21 points. And I understand 21 points in the grand scheme of things. If it was a team other than the Giants, really not that bad. But this is a Giants offense that wasn't able to get anything going this year. And now all of a sudden they go to Cleveland and they win. It's trouble there. Deshaun Watson gets sacked like 8 times. You can't have that happening. Brown, not a good situation for the Browns right now.
Yeah, and also the Giants' D-line is actually very good. I will put we forget that a little bit because the rest of the team isn't great. And also the problem with the Browns is not that you lost 21-15. It's the fact that you were kind of getting dominated in that second half, and you're down 21-7 to the New York Giants, and you're playing comeback football against the New York Giants. You're down 2 touchdowns to the New York Giants. That's the biggest problem there, too. The offensive line is honestly a disaster at this point. Deshaun Watson's going to have no success. The Browns, I think that's a fair point. I just think it's over for them. I fully off the Browns train. But I also think it's kind of like, I don't want to put the Titans in this category, but like you don't ever think the Giants have a shot to make the playoffs this year. And I feel like we're getting to that point with the Browns where we're going, I don't know about them making the playoffs this year. Or like the Broncos. I have no faith the Broncos are going to make the playoffs.
So off the rails a little bit here. We see Daniel Jones, 2 touchdown passes, 220 plus passing yards. Does this start a little something? Does this start a little something in New York? You see Malik Neighbors get going. You might have that connection there.
Maybe so. If we see the New York Giants beat the Dallas Cowboys, there's going to be a little hype train that starts rolling for Dayball and Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors. And the Cowboy season is over if they lose on Thursday night. That don't get that twisted. If they lose,
it's not over. Not over yet. 1-3, not over.
If they lose to the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football, their season's over. I'm putting that out there right now.
No,
I think every Cowboys fan would agree with me.
Well, that's because sports fans are just irrational. Of course they're going to agree with you. I mean, come on.
My other panic button team's the 49ers. And
really,
caveat here, it's not just the 49ers. The 49ers healthy, full confidence. But this 49ers team, without their stars, I have real concerns. I'm sorry, you got to beat that Rams team without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Come on, you're letting Tutu Atwell beat you. You're letting Demarcus Robinson beat you. You're letting Tyler Johnson beat you. This also goes back to the point of how good McVay and Stafford are. I mean, the fact that they pulled that game out is unbelievable. Come on, 49ers. You got to win that game. You got to find a way to win that game. No Kittle, no Debo, no McCaffrey. These injuries just scare me with this 49ers team. This is starting to look like a small little Super Bowl hangover, season from hell kind of deal with the 49ers. I'm not hitting the panic button, but my hand's hovering over it because I need to see this team healthy.
I'm not there with you on the 49ers. I'm not, and I
You're
wasn't
not
very
worried
high
about their health.
I mean, missing the guys, sure, like that doesn't help. But
the
Brock
fact
Purdy
is that Debo, decent chance George Kittle and McCaffrey going on the IR is really, really scary.
I understand that, and obviously I can't sit here and say that if they're missing those guys, there's nothing to be worried about. But just looking at this game yesterday, you see Brock Purdy had a great day, almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. You have that one fumble that gives the Rams good field position. The fake punt from the Rams on 4th down that converts, that's not going to happen every game. Jake Moody misses a field goal. Like, there are things here. When watching this game, the 49ers looked better than I expected with them missing all of their players. And this was just, I think this is what happens.
I think
when you
that's
have
more of a testament to how bad this Rams defense is. But I will say Juwan Jennings stepped up in the Debo role better than Debo.
Oh my gosh, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns. Juwan Jennings looked great. And this is, if you watched 49ers football at all, this isn't something that's crazy. Like, that you kind of expect this to happen.
He was Super Bowl MVP if they win that game.
100 passing touchdown. He late in the season when Debo and they have these injuries, because this isn't a new thing. The 49ers injury bug has happened the last 2 years. Jennings has always stepped up in that position, and he's looked great. As for hitting the panic button on the 49ers, you look at their losses. We talked about it again on the preview show. Home divisional dog, even if it was packed with 49ers fans, like, that's just an advantageous spot. That's where you're going to see upsets. The Rams were a 7.5-point underdog, and then you have a loss for the 49ers to the NFC North leading Vikings team. MVP candidate Sam Darnold. Like, there are things, the health is concerning. Obviously, when the 49ers are fully healthy, they're one of the best teams in football. But I still think they have guys you can plug in. This loss was a little fluky, and there's no cause for concern moving forward with the 49ers for me. I think they can do it. And keep in mind, I don't want to harp on this game too long. Like you said, this might just be McVay Stafford masterclass. Make do with what you have. Like you said, Tutu Atwell, but Stafford was composed the whole time. He made great decisions, and that's what you get when you have a veteran quarterback like that leading your team. And let's not forget the Rams were decimated too. So it's I'm not quite pushing the panic button on the 49ers yet. Divisional games are rough.
Let's say the Rams were faced with let's say the Rams say, okay, our season's over. We're kind of in the toilet a little bit. It gets down the road a little bit there. Let's say they're 2-6, 2-7, hypothetically. How much do you think the Miami Dolphins would pay for Matthew Stafford to come play football there?
Well, what's the deal with Tua? He's coming back, isn't he?
He's on the IR.
They will have to. Why would they go sign Snoop Huntley then? Like, why go get Huntley?
Well,
you don't plan on making him the quarterback.
Well, they played Tim Boyle. They played Tim Boyle yesterday.
But I think you have to give Snoop some time to get used to the system. That's kind of my thought. I think that if the Dolphins made their move already is kind of what I'm thinking with him, and they'll give him a couple weeks of practice with the team and then step up in week 5 or 6 or something.
I think there's a good chance Bryce Young is a Miami Dolphin within the next couple weeks.
You think they trade him?
Oh, the Panthers?
Yeah.
Oh, Bryce Young, as long as Andy Dalton's healthy, Bryce Young will never play another snap for the Carolina Panthers. If you read the reports, Diana Rossini, she's plugged in basically more than any other national reporter. She's plugged in more than Schefter to the Carolina Panthers. She said it's over. I 100% agree with her.
I mean, and I understand we see reports saying they don't want to trade Bryce Young. I understand it's all hearsay.
He also said Bryce is our quarterback. He's going to be our guy going forward. And then 12 hours later, Bryce Young benched.
No, well, he said that Bryce Young was their quarterback after they benched him.
No.
Yeah.
No, he did not, Dylan. It
was in the. What are you talking? It was the same press conference.
No, it was not. Dylan. How are you going to disagree with me here? Right after the game, they asked him, after the Chargers game, they said, what's the deal with Bryce? Is he going to be the starting quarterback next week? And he goes, Bryce is our quarterback. And then the next day, they benched Andy Dalton. Monday morning at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, they benched Andy Dalton.
Just to be clear, this isn't to be dumb, but they benched Bryce Young just for the audience.
Oh, yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm not as plugged in on Carolina. That's just what I saw online, was that they said that he said that Bryce Young was their guy moving forward, but they have to do what they need to do to win now.
No, so it was two separate things, because he said he's our quarterback right after the Chargers game, and then the next day, that morning, he goes, oh yeah, Andy Dalton's starting, by the way, Bryce is benched. He's not playing.
Okay.
He's not playing.
All right, so he's going to get traded.
Yep, and he's going to be a Miami Dolphin, and he'll probably do great there, which honestly is fine. It's got to move on.
Now, how can you say he's going to do great there when you see Andy Dalton step into this awful, and apparently people can't tell sarcasm from my
Are we
tweet.
doing Panthers Minute now?
Well, we can do Panthers Minute.
All right, let's do Panthers Minute.
Let's put a big old disclaimer like on the side, like Panthers Minute. Skip to blank if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah, we have timestamps. We have timestamps below. Blank. We keep timestamps below. You're good.
So give me Panthers Minute, because the last time we talked, it was, I don't want Andy Dalton starting. We need to lose games and tank. And now Andy Dalton goes out and looks like Dan Marino, and it's like, we're back, baby. We're going to win the South. The South is ours again.
That's because I'm a delusional sports fan for my Carolina Panthers. It's what it is. I mean, you're sitting there saying Michigan's going to beat Texas and only give up 10 points. And
USC.
These things happen. Well, USC, good call. Anyhow,
yeah, okay. Move the goalposts.
Quick Panthers Minute. I mean, look, it looks like it was Bryce Young that was at fault, and I think it's just a lack of confidence thing. I think he can be a good quarterback in this league, but it's not going to happen in Carolina. That's just what it is.
What have you seen that makes you think he's going to... This is... All I heard was the system is bad. Offensive line's bad. He doesn't have the receivers. Yeah. Andy Dalton goes out and makes this team look like...
I think we're looking at... Last year and this year are totally separate in my eyes. I don't think they're all encompassing into one thing, because I don't think Bryce was as bad as last year as people think. I think the system around him was so much worse, and they did so much in the offseason to improve that, and I think his confidence was just totally shot from last season going into this year, that it was almost just unsalvageable in Carolina. He needs a different head coach and a different change of scenery to have a chance at being a good quarterback. I just think it's done in Carolina, and that's the thing.
Carter, he has a different head coach. He's had 3.
I understand. Change of scenery. He needs to get out of Carolina.
I don't know.
Guess what? Baker Mayfield had multiple head coaches, and it didn't work out very well in Cleveland. Now he goes off to Tampa Bay. It's change of scenery. Same with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, bad situations in New York and Carolina, does not work well there, and then finally gets in a good spot. He's one of the best quarterbacks in this league all of a sudden.
But I think there's a difference. Sam Darnold's actually a good quarterback. Like we have not seen anything from Bryce Young at this level that would say, hey, this guy's a starter in the NFL.
But we didn't see anything from Sam Darnold up until that last season in Carolina to warrant he should be a starting quarterback in this league. And even that last season in Carolina was terrible. Almost any other quarterback should have made that team a playoff team. Therefore, but then all of a sudden we see Sam Darnold in the right situation. It's just he's a totally different player than what he was previously.
So my next question, if Bryce Young's time in Carolina is over, why does it matter to you if he's a good quarterback?
Well, I'm rooting for him. I think he's a good dude. Why would I want him to be a bad quarterback?
I don't say you need to want him to be a bad quarterback. I'm saying
why can't I root for the guy?
It seems like you're going to bat for the guy and you don't think he's going to stay in Carolina. So what is it trying to rationalize the draft choice and what you gave up?
No, I mean if you swing and a miss, it's whatever. I mean you're going to miss on over 50% of quarterbacks anyways. It's not necessarily that. Like, even if I'm wrong about Bryce Young, it's not necessarily that. I'm just rooting for the guy because I don't want him to What?
It's not swinging and missing, though. It's giving the opposing team 5 runs to start the game, and then you swing and miss. Like,
how?
You gave up so much for this guy.
Yeah, but it's like when you buy concert tickets, and then you already pay with SeatGeek, And then all of a sudden it's the day of, and you're like, you know what? I already paid for them. Like, it's cut our losses. And I like say you can't. You're like, I don't want to go. Say they're cheap concert tickets. I know this wasn't cheap, but
yeah, you were Taylor Swift Eras Tour type stuff with this Bryce Young.
Yeah,
pick.
Absolutely. And so, but I mean, it's just, what are you going to do now? You're going to sit there and
that's fair.
Like, what's the point in sitting there being like, whoa, you know, we spent all this money and all this stuff. It's just like, you know, man. And also, guess what? If Caleb Williams is a bust, that trade doesn't matter. Okay, you gave away DJ Moore for free. That's it. The Panthers got their second round pick back, so it doesn't matter.
To say it doesn't.
Let's say they're both equally busts. Then you just give away DJ Moore. It's not the worst trade in NFL history.
I mean, you gave away a top wide receiver for nothing.
Top wide receivers a little much.
But keep in mind who is throwing to him and what kind of protection that quarterback has. DJ Moore is a great wide receiver in a good system.
Good wide receiver. He's not great. No, wide receiver. He is a great wide receiver 2, good wide receiver 1.
Okay. That's fine. I can't. Anyhow, I don't know enough about positionals.
I don't want to talk about Bryce Young anymore. The real thing I want to talk about is everyone's going to sit there and pinpoint and be like, holy crap, Bryce Young was the problem. And sure, yeah, he was really bad.
He was.
I'm not saying that. I think the narrative really should be Andy Dalton is a damn good quarterback. Because those throws he was making were unbelievable.
He was making great throws.
If you watch that Panthers game, the decision-making and the throws were unbelievable. And part of me just thinks, okay, why didn't I think this before the season where Dave Canales has not had success with any rookie quarterbacks? He's just revived veteran careers. Why would I not have thought this was going to happen with Andy Dalton in Carolina? Why did I not think this guy revives Geno Smith from the dead? Geno Smith was out of the league.
Well, we said the same thing about Young, though. We said he was going to come in and change Young.
That's what we thought. That's what that's my point.
It's like a reverse. It's like, actually, it's the other quarterback. It's not the new guy. It's the old guy.
It's the veterans. Yeah, he just revives these veterans. He just gives them new life. He's like these he's like testosterone basically that all these old people are taking.
That's what he did to Andy Dalton.
Yeah, he did it to Geno. Geno was one of the worst quarterbacks I had watching football, and I'm like, how is this guy going to be the starting quarterback of the Seahawks? And all of a sudden, this guy's been starting 3 years, and he's been fantastic for the Seattle Seahawks. And then Baker Mayfield, he was out of the league. The Panthers waived him. The Rams were like, hey, man, have fun. Like, go find another place. We're good. Like, thanks for playing a couple Thursday night football games for us.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and gets Baker Mayfield paid $35 million a year. And now all of a sudden, Andy Dalton is sitting there. That game yesterday, I think the Raiders are a bad football team, so let's take it with a grain of salt a little bit.
Yeah.
But he was making phenomenal throws, man. Like, it was just, the accuracy was unbelievable. And like I said, I just forgot how much I love seeing the Carolina Panthers win football games because I haven't seen it much lately.
So as we wrap up the Panthers minute, I need it extremely clear where you stand with the Panthers. Are we back on we want them to win games?
Back. Yeah,
we're wanting to win
all
games
the way
now.
back.
Okay.
We're all the way back. I'm going to Panthers Bengals next Sunday. I was sitting there, I was like, maybe I won't go. Maybe I'll just bail and I'll just watch games on my TV. And then after that Raiders game, I was like, we're gonna keep pounding in Carolina. Rip off the brown. We're not wearing brown paper bags to this game. They were all in. We're gonna keep pounding. Freaking love the Panthers. Panthers are so back. But I think that's enough on the Panthers.
Yeah, the next week will be a good test. Bengals defense is bad. Could make Andy Dalton look pretty good. So
the Panthers and the 49ers have the same record.
Well, the Panthers and the Ravens have the same record. The Panthers and the Cowboys, the 49ers all have the same record. A lot of 1 and 2 teams. Falcons, same record.
A lot of great 1 and 2 teams. We don't have to classify them, but there's a lot of great 1 and 2 teams.
There is a lot, and you can lump in whoever you want into that great category.
Speaking of these quarterbacks like Darnold, Geno, Baker, we wanted to discuss this before the show. Speaking of guys like Darnold, Baker, Geno, and these pocket passing quarterbacks, why are we not? How is pocket passing not the number one trait now in draft? When you evaluate the draft right now, because I think Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen, I think they warped people's brain on how important mobility is. I think baseline mobility is the only thing that matters.
It's like finding a nice hybrid between the ability to be mobile and then be a pocket passer. And it's the reason I asked this question is because I was watching Sunday Night Football last night, and Kirk Cousins, who is getting up there in age, doesn't move a lot, but he was making pretty good throws in open space to his receivers. And then you start thinking of guys like Jared Goff, who isn't a great example this season, but like Matt Stafford, he doesn't have mobile upside, but he has the ability to make the throws needed to drive a team down the field. And then you have guys, go ahead.
And if needed, he can scramble and get that first down, like if it's wide open.
Yes, yeah. And Stafford is more inclined to do that than like Kirk or Rodgers. And the reason I brought this up was because the Ravens, we saw Lamar can extend plays. You have a lot of guys in the league that can extend plays, but when you need someone to stand in the pocket and make that big throw, what is more valuable to a team? And I understand you have to have that baseline mobility. You can't just be like a guy that stays in the pocket, but just a little thought exercise I had. And I understand the game has evolved where in college you have a lot of these guys that move, and that's just kind of the quarterback pool is made up of these guys. But I was curious to your thoughts. Is it a hybrid? Do you want a pocket passer in high leverage situations and then maybe in different situations, rush first quarterback?
I just feel like when you're taking these rush first quarterbacks now, and this was always the question mark, but I think it's more glaring now than ever. They're just not great decision makers when it's time to actually sit in the pocket, because in college you can rely on your legs and you can rely on running the ball and scrambling out of the pocket, and it's easier to make those plays in college when you're playing at an Alabama, Ohio State type place. But in the NFL, you have to stand in that pocket and make the throws.
Is there how would I explain this? Is it better to not have to make the decision to scramble or not? Like you're Kirk Cousins, if the pocket collapses, you're just going down. You sit in the pocket, you go through every read. If nothing is there, you just go down. Where if you're Lamar, Anthony Richardson's a great example. Where
Anthony
if the pocket
Richardson's
collapses,
the prime example,
and you can't go through your reads, instead of making the decision, do I stay in the pocket and do I keep going through these reads, or do I take off? Like there's no. You make better decisions as a pocket passer because you have less decisions to make.
I think that's a great point. I mean, obviously, like I've never played the quarterback position, obviously, but yeah, I think that's a great point, because you watch Caleb Williams play, and it's in his mind, he's like, okay, if read one's not there, scramble and run out of the pocket and see if someone else can just randomly get open, kind of like Mahomes will do, where he's able to improvise, and Kelsey will go and sit in behind a zone and find himself open right there. But I think that's a great point, where it's just, okay, I have to go through my progressions. I have to go through my reads. I have to step up in the pocket. Otherwise, you know what? We just take the sack. We just take the sack, or we're able to throw it away, or, where they do not necessarily, where they basically throw it short on purpose to the check down.
Yeah. There's a difference in the decision making between running out of the pocket and buying time. Like you see the run, like I'm going to use Anthony Richardson again. Pocket collapses, it's just run. It's not try to miss the tackles and keep going through. And that's why Patrick Mahomes has so much success, is like he's a great pocket passer. He's mobile, but he is never thinking if things go bad, run. It's if things go bad, try to make something happen, and then if you roll out to the right or to the left or whatever, and you see that you can get the first down and no one's in the area, then you go. It's not, I'm under duress, I have to run away. The
run is almost his third option.
Yeah, and that's
in a way
really not having to make the decision. Patrick Mahomes is a unicorn at this. Obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks, but like guys like Kirk, guys like Stafford, Rodgers, Brady in his prime, it's not. You have less decisions to make, and I think that keeps you from making bad decisions. So if we want to come to a conclusion with this, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, because obviously guys like Lamar open up the run game. They make defenses work a little bit more. Who's going to keep the ball? But in terms of decision making, it's really hard to say, just take a pocket passer and someone who doesn't have to make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Going off this too, with guys like Geno, Baker, Darnold, Jared Goff, great example. What's the point in even drafting a rookie quarterback at this point? We're seeing the success of these teams like the Lions and Vikings right now. if everything around them is set up for success, getting these experienced guys who have had real NFL experience in this league, it almost seems like that matters more than just bringing in a rookie, and you're having a higher success rate than drafting a rookie and trying to get him through the system. Yeah, it's nice having him on a rookie quarterback, but why not take a chance on some quote unquote damaged goods like Sam Darnold? Isn't that are we going to see teams start having that approach more and more now?
So are you saying why draft a quarterback at all, or like early picks?
That it's kind of that like 6 through 15 range. Honestly, because unless you're stashing that quarterback, we've seen these guys time and time again where these guys who are drafted in the 6 through 25 range, where if they start right away, they almost struggle 100%, not 100% of the time, but most of the time they struggle. You think about a guy like Daniel Jones, struggled immediately, looked terrible immediately. Mac Jones looked great immediately, but that flamed out quite quickly. And then Josh Allen's kind of your outlier in that position. Bo Nix has struggled recently. Obviously, he played well against the Buccaneers yesterday, but Bo Nix is in that spot right now. Unless you're going to stash that quarterback, it's almost worth it just to go get the experienced guy and just build everything else around it, like the 49ers have, like the Lions have. The 49ers is somewhat of a different story, but not really, because Jimmy Garoppolo was almost that damaged goods, and he almost started this trend.
How much of this do you think is coaching compared to the actual talent of the quarterback? And I say that because Greeny had a tweet yesterday, and if you don't think coaching is everything in the NFL, then you aren't watching Malik Willis or Sam Darnold or Justin Fields play. And honestly, I haven't watched much Justin Fields tape this year, but Malik Willis he didn't throw a lot. He had 19 pass attempts.
Malik Willis and Justin Fields are kind of in that same vein right now, where their coaches are just saying, do not make any decisions, run the football, and hit the open short throws. These guys aren't having to throw deep, even though Justin Fields made a couple impressive throws yesterday.
But do you think that, like, we'll go Malik Willis's case, right? And this doesn't need to be Titans minute. This doesn't need to be any of that. I understand he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL, but we've seen him with Green Bay. He isn't having to make the decisions, right?
Yeah.
But he was drafted into a system with a head coach, Mike Vrabel. I love him to death. I don't think he was prioritizing getting a running quarterback. And he wanted Tannehill. He wanted the pocket passer. He wanted Levis. And Levis has a little mobile upside, but not as much as Malik Willis. Obviously, coach buy-in matters, but you see Sam Darnold go to Minnesota and look amazing. We know Kevin O'Connell's a great coach. Is this the right quarterback being drafted by the right coach and getting put in the right system? There's a lot of quarterback talk to be had.
I think those things just go hand in hand. Usually the good coaches are going to have good teams, as simple and vanilla as that analysis is, because you look at the 49ers, yes, they have so much talent, but they also have an elite head coach. The Rams right now, yesterday was just so impressed. I was so impressed that they won that game, but they have an elite head coach and they have elite players around them. I think coaching, yes, matters, but I really think the talent around them and the system around them equally matters, because we even look at the Jets right now. I don't think Robert Saleh is this unbelievable elite head coach, but the talent around is much better now.
Is it crazy to think that I can't make a decision about Saleh because of the situations he's had the last 2 years? Like, he has not had the team that he was supposed to have.
And they won 7 games with Zach Wilson, so, I mean, maybe he is a good great head coach, and I have it wrong. Yeah.
It's just, I think you're right. I don't think it ever will, because quarterback is the flashiest position. Like, people are always going to want to draft that.
And that's my point with that too. That's really important, is people aren't going to stop drafting quarterbacks because of this new trend or whatnot. Because guess what? What's the number one way as a GM whose job is on the line to win over the fans? Draft a quarterback.
Yep.
If you draft a quarterback on draft night, every fan is all in, because when you draft an offensive lineman on draft night and you're an NFL fan, you're sitting there like, I guess that's the right pick, but this is kind of boring.
Yeah.
But then when you go and get a Will Levis and pick 33, or you go get Jordan Love in the 20s, that was a little different. But you get these quarterbacks later on, Mac Jones at 15, you're sitting there, this is awesome. We got a quarterback. This is going to be our next guy. This is the thing you can point to that can change your franchise immediately. But in reality, you probably should be going for this D lineman, offensive lineman, and winning in the trenches. But if you're a GM and you need to save your job, there's no better way than drafting a quarterback.
Yep,
And
that
we saw the Carolina
reinvigorates
Panthers do that in a
fan
horrible
base.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and traded up for that said quarterback. But anyhow, all right, let's get into some games. Let's get into some individual games. I guess we forgot to do pump the brakes teams. Do we want to do that?
I'll go real quick. My answers are really boring. And this is, I'm gonna go the Bucks. Obviously, the loss was really concerning yesterday. We saw Baker Mayfield regress a little bit back to the Baker Mayfield I think we all know and kind of love. And then I also had the Saints. Like the Eagles just completely outclassed this team. They dominated the Saints. And I'm not a huge Eagles fan, but I'll give them their flowers.
Dominated a stretch. The Eagles, this is one silly football team.
Can you explain?
Turnovers and decision-making in important spots by the coaching staff are so mind-numbing. It's unbelievable because there was multiple times. I can't remember the exact. I don't have the timestamp of where it was in the game. It was 4th and 1, and they faked the tush push.
Yeah, I think Sirianni's just back there with a wheel or like maybe flipping a coin.
No, I think Sirianni's got major anxiety and needs a better help sponsorship because guess what? He's overthinking everything. This team, the coaching staff is overthinking every little thing. It's just, hey, man, play to your strengths. Run the freaking football. Quit trying to throw it when A.J. Brown's out and Devontae Smith is banged up. Run the football. And they had success, and that's how they won the game, was on the ground.
Yep, on the ground, 240 more yards than the Saints, nearly 3 more yards per play. Hurts masterclass, 1 interception, 1 fumble, 311 passing yards. It's we've touched on it from the beginning of the year. I don't think any of us were high on the Saints or the Bucks, and they started off hot. Both teams, I'm not high on the Eagles, but I think if you know anything about the Saints team, what they were doing was not sustainable. Both those teams in the NFC South are ones that I'm like, probably
we knew the regression was coming,
especially for Baker.
Yep. And yesterday was an all-time Baker gets exposed in the 1:00 slate. No one cares.
No one's going to say anything about it.
We'll get into individual games in a second. My pump the brakes team, I had those two written down, but my pump the brakes team that I want to mention is the Houston Texans.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
Because
I love it.
You can say, okay, Joe Mixon was out. They have been on fraud watch for me, even though they were 2-0. This team, if you actually watch the games, the Houston Texans are like a Porsche. And you're going, ooh, this Porsche is sweet. This is awesome. We got a freaking Porsche.
Nice engine, nice pieces, nice parts.
Then you finally look under the hood and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a disaster. This thing can only go to 35,000 miles. Oh no. Oh no. Because we look at the teams they've played. The Indianapolis Colts. We know who this Colts team is now. We know who Anthony Richardson is a little bit more, but we know who this Colts team is. Barely get out of that game alive. The Chicago Bears, who are somehow even worse than this Colts team. And the Texans had every chance to put the nail in the coffin against that Bears team, and they couldn't do it.
Nope.
And then Joe Mixon is out for this Vikings game. And they come out against a good, really, really solid Vikings team. Honestly, their first real test of the season, and they got stomped, Dylan. They got stomped. We were seeing bad turnovers. We were seeing the run game was just getting absolutely blown up. You can say that's Joe Mixon, sure. CJ Stroud struggled yesterday. A lot of easy pass yards to pad the stats in the second half when they are getting killed. I am very worried about this Houston Texans team. It's also on the defensive side of the ball, too. I think we had concerns going into the season. I just don't think they've played great teams the first couple weeks. And now that we're actually seeing it, I think we should pump the brakes a little bit on the Houston Texans, Dylan.
And we'll figure it out here soon. They have the Bills coming up, Lions. I mean, their schedule is not necessarily easy. Jets, Cowboys. I love what you're saying here. because what we saw from them this week, number one, they let Minnesota run the ball. They let Aaron Jones run all over them. That was embarrassing.
And that has been the thing for the Houston Texans for the last decade.
Yeah.
Is they allow teams to just ground and pound on them. If you can halfway run the ball and you don't overthink it, you're going to have success. We saw even with the Colts had success on the ground and nearly won that game despite Anthony Richardson not being able to go through one read. He can't make a single easy throw in this league. And they still almost won, winning on the ground. If you can run the ball on the Houston Texans, you are going to beat the Houston Texans.
And on the flip side of that, we saw that if the Texans are forced to be one-dimensional, they aren't effective. And we saw the two Stroud interceptions. They had 25, 30 rushing yards. They just weren't able to run the ball, whether that's because Joe Mixon was out. If you're a Texans fan and you want to say, well, we were missing our running back. Sure. I'll give you some credit there, but it is really troubling whenever they're not able to establish the run and you see how many pass attempts Stroud had. And granted, they were playing from behind, but this is a problem.
But to the people that are saying, Texans fans that are saying, well, Joe Mixon was out. Even when Joe Mixon was playing, are you actually, when you watch these games in full, are you actually impressed with what you've seen from the Houston Texans so far this season? I would say absolutely I am not.
This was their first test, and they did not pass. I would say they failed. And now we got to talk.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's flip to the other side of this.
Well, before we do that, real quick, 3 straight false starts. What are we doing here? That's a huge problem. In Minnesota, come on. But anyway, other side of
Minnesota,
it. Go
loud environment. Loud environment. Let's talk about Minnesota. This is who I want to talk about. Dylan, we talked about, we kind of like Sam Darnold going into the year, but it just seemed like kind of just off season from hell for the Minnesota Vikings. All the stuff's happening, arrests, players dying, and it's just horrible left and right for the Minnesota Vikings. All of a sudden, we're looking at a 3-0 team that beat the Houston Texans, the San Francisco 49ers, and the New York Giants. This is a legit football team. People thought I was crazy when I said this is I bought in after 1 week. When I watched that New York Giants game, I said, you know what? It was the New York Giants. I understand I'm supposed to take this with a grain of salt, but this is different. The throws Sam Darnold's making, his decision-making, he's not seeing ghosts anymore. He's in a great system, and Kevin O'Connell, coach of the year, just give it to him right now. Oh, my goodness. Dylan, this Vikings team's legit.
What impresses me about this Vikings team? You look, first of all, they're missing their wide receiver number 2. He didn't play last week, didn't play this week.
And their tight end.
And their starting tight end. Darnold's passing touchdowns were to Johnny Munt, Naylor, Jefferson, and Aaron Jones. So it's not like you could say, oh, well, they have the best wide receiver in the league. He's not just throwing it to Jefferson. He is throwing this ball to everybody and making it look good. They're able to establish the run. One of the concerns we had is Aaron Jones washed? He's always injured. We saw an Aaron Jones game week 1. We saw a Ty Chandler game week 2. We saw an Aaron Jones game week 3. It's really starting to seem like someone in this running back room, on any given week, is going to have success. It doesn't matter if it's Jones or Chandler. When you can establish that run and you give Sam Darnold the ability to throw the ball down the field, now he had 181 yards, right? But they got out in front to where he doesn't have to launch the ball down the field. They can, manage clock. And even then, they still managed to beat Houston by 27 points. This Minnesota team is legitimate. And this was, it's not even their first real test because they beat the 49ers last week. They beat the
49ers
Texans.
Had everybody except McCaffrey.
Yeah, it wasn't the decimated team that the 49ers put out yesterday. So we're going to have to start having a serious conversation about the Vikings, maybe winning the division with how Goff has looked.
They're a wild card team.
100%. They have looked really good against defenses that are historically last year, the year before, have been good. And that is reassuring.
And the other thing that we didn't even mention, holy crap, Dylan, this defense is legit too.
Yeah. Daniel Hunter isn't even missed.
They gave up 7 points. 7 points to the Houston Texans, 17 to the San Francisco 49ers, and 8 points? I think it was 28-8.
I think so.
I'm doing it off the top of my head. But in 3 games, they're giving up almost no points.
And to speak to the credit of Minnesota's defense, I understand the Texans' game plan was going to be very one-dimensional once they got down, once their running back was out. But Stroud is a good quarterback, and they still made him make mistakes. It was very impressive what we're seeing from Minnesota. And now, undefeated, they're at the top of a division. Like, the sky is the limit for this team. And you're right about O'Connell. Great coach. Poor J.J. McCarthy's not going to have a place to play.
Yeah,
he's not going to be a starter. I mean,
J.J. McCarthy might not be playing. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see some Sam Darnold regression eventually.
Sure, yeah.
But and it very well could happen against the Packers this week. What a huge game that is! What a huge game Vikings Packers is, and we'll talk about it on our Wednesday preview show. Make sure to tune into that. Let's quickly go through a bunch of games this week to talk about, and then we'll get out of here. Broncos Buccaneers. We touched on this briefly, but the Broncos. I don't know how much of this Bo Nix looked good, or is it we just knew the Bucs are always ready for a stinker. And I just think the Broncos just caught them at a perfect time where the Buccaneers sleepwalked into this game.
Sure.
It was Baker, a kitchen sink game for the Broncos.
You have Baker looking more like the Baker of the past. 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 10.1 QBR. I don't think this is a testament to Bo Nix. I know that this Buccaneers defense is dealing with the injury bug. He had 216 yards, 1 rush touchdown. Impressive. Mm-hmm. This was the luck game. And I didn't even know it until Nick Giffen tweeted something after the game. Was like, I think the Bucs were the second luckiest team and the Broncos were the unluckiest. Had I had seen that, I would have been all over this game. But the Bucs were due for some regression, and they got it against this Denver team.
Yeah, that was Connor's whole point going into this season, where he was like, yeah, I think Bucs are going to be one of the worst teams in football because they were just lucky, nonstop lucky. That has to come back down to earth, and maybe we're seeing it now after week 3. We'll see.
When Connor comes back, I need Connor to be on a Stephen A. arc where he's like, Dallas you can enjoy your wins like last season when Dallas started off hot. You can enjoy your wins now, but just know when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to late in the season, they're going to blow it. I need Connor's videos.
The issue is
like Stephen A. does.
The issue is the Cowboys aren't enjoying wins.
Yeah, that's a little different this year. That's a little different this year.
Chargers Steelers. Maybe we should have hit the panic button on the Chargers because Justin Herbert might be out, and we don't know what we got going on there. That's very scary.
I don't want my homer to show, but it's definitely going to show. And if this gets clipped, people are going to clown me. I strangely have enough confidence in Harbaugh and Jesse Minter to get their defense in a position to where that alone will keep them in games.
I don't think that's crazy. I just think Harbaugh's that good of a coach. I think they're going to be in position to win games. It's just eventually you're going to need a little bit out of the quarterback, and I don't know if Taylor Heineke can get that done.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair. Do they go out if Herbert's out for a long time, do they go out and get somebody?
Bryce Young?
I mean, kind of the same colors. Got blue in there.
Phone lines are open in Carolina. Steelers, I texted you about this, but at what point are we going to talk about TJ Watt being the best player in football?
That's a fair point. I mean, he's a key part of this defense that almost single-handedly wins them games.
Yes, it's unbelievable. They are the best defense in football. It's so impressive what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done this season so far under a quarterback who does not want to throw the ball at all. It's just, Mike Tomlin, man. I can't believe that's why I didn't bet against him. Everything on paper told you bet against the Steelers offense. They have so many holes, but this defense and Mike Tomlin just figure out ways to get it done. Now, I think eventually obviously the Steelers are not going to go undefeated this season, but 3-0, man, there's a lot of positive stats about teams that start 3-0. Just say that.
We don't have to get into this on this episode. We can do it on the preview, or we don't have to do it at all. We might have to have a talk about Jussie and Russie. If Russie gets healthy, I don't think you can start Russie over Jussie right now.
Oh, you can't start Justin Fields, or you can't start Russell Wilson over Justin Fields right away.
But I do want exonerated from my Russell Wilson take if he doesn't play.
Okay, but then you also don't get to ride the Steelers pick because that was based on Russell Wilson playing.
Okay, that's fair.
I think you take the Steelers dub. I think it's much easier to take the Steelers dub than the Russell Wilson MVP because then you can just spin zone it and say, well, Russell Wilson was hurt. It's not my fault.
Yeah.
My analysis
that's a good
was
point.
there.
Yeah, I can't do anything about that. We also need to revisit if Russell doesn't play at all this year, let's say whatever happens, and Deshaun Watson looks really bad. We have that conversation about who's back this year. Who wins that between Deshaun and Russ? If Russ doesn't play, who wins that debate?
I think it might be when you talk about Caleb Williams versus Bryce Young. I think both are just bad.
No one wins.
Yeah, no one wins. It was like watching this game yesterday, Bears-Colts, where it was just a battle of, okay, which quarterback is going to do which run? This really came down to which running back is better.
Oh, my gosh. We're moving on to Colts-Bears?
Colts-Bears, yeah.
This was – so I didn't get to watch this game. Went to the Reds game yesterday. I went back and watched some of the highlights. Really bad interceptions by both guys. Like,
no, it was. I'm not kidding. I don't. You know, we always talk about these quarterbacks where like, oh, they have one read and they scramble. Yep. I'll be honest. I don't think Anthony Richardson has one read.
I think it's just go. And Richardson, that one interception he had to start the second half. Just completely overthrew his guy. Really bad throw.
The worst one was the end zone one.
Yeah.
He was on the 5-yard line and just handed it. He handed it to the Bears. I don't know. They somehow pulled out a win there.
So that was a classic. Well, I guess they could tie, so not one team has to win. But you know what I'm saying.
And I understand. I'm not a guy that I think I typically like to say that year one rookie quarterbacks, I like to think the first year is a wash. Give the people time. So I'm not going to panic on Caleb Williams, but what we've seen so far is not encouraging.
And he has a really bad offensive line. I'll give him that credit, but there were some Will Levis-esque decisions there. One interception he threw under duress. It was like, just go down. So there's the offensive line's tough. I don't want to pass too much judgment. Still don't think he's going to be great, but
it's not like he doesn't have weapons.
Oh,
Dunze and DJ Moore are legit, and so. But that's the thing.
But if you don't have time to get the ball to him.
Okay, well, I'm glad we didn't get to. I'm glad that reasoning wasn't allowed last season with Bryce Young. So,
well, now we know he's doo-doo now. Can't see.
He's not doo-doo.
Caleb can at least see over his offensive line.
Everyone called Sam Darnold doo-doo in New York.
Not me. I was still holding on to that 2017 Rose Bowl.
Giants Browns. What a disastrous loss for the Browns. We touched on it briefly when we talked about it earlier, but just what a disaster loss for them. That's a season-defining loss right there almost. I know it's week 3, but this was your chance to, oh my gosh, we can turn this around. We're 2-1. What a momentum killer by losing to the New York Giants. That's a game you can't lose.
Deshaun Watson, 2 fumbles lost. The guy who got sacked 8 times, lost 48 yards. It's really hard to, put all of it on him when something like that happens, but the Browns needed to win this game and they couldn't. We touched on it, Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors coming out party, 2 touchdowns for Neighbors, 8 receptions, 78 yards. Browns are in a really bad spot here. They play in a very tough division, 1-2. What are you going to do?
I don't know. It's scary for the Cleveland Browns. Eagles Saints, we talked about that game. Eagles pulled out. That game was terrible. The 1:00 slate games were so bad, and including this game, Packers Titans. Dylan.
Here's what I'm not going to do. And then before you go, here's what we're not going to do. Your first round draft pick ends up being a bust, and you're not just going to come straight for mine because all you were texting me all day yesterday was, "Oh, well,
Dylan,
you see that throw by Levis? Oh, what a
Dylan."
His butt was on the ground. He had no time to do anything. He made great throws when
Bryce Young doesn't have time, it's not okay.
What are you talking about? Yeah,
last season when Bryce Young didn't have time.
You said, "Oh, Bryce Young's a playmaker." He wasn't doing it.
Oh, then what is Will Levis then? So if he's not a playmaker, then he's a game manager? Is that what you're saying?
Levis is a dog. He's got Mamba mentality. He wants to win. That's what I'll say. He will put his body on the line. He's a sacrificial lamb. He will do what it takes to win.
But he's not winning. He's 0-3.
And that's a problem, right? That is a problem. When you get sacked 8 times a game, you're not going to be able to put your team in a position to win.
If Bryce Young's a playmaker, he's not making the plays. If Will Levis is a winner and does everything out to go out and win.
I think maybe there's a little bit of miscommunication here. Will Levis is a dog. It just so happens Green Bay is eating the dogs.
Will Levis is a bad quarterback.
No,
and also you're saying I'm only doing this because Bryce Young is bad. Now I'm going after Will Levis.
Yeah,
I've been going against Will Levis this whole time,
but not like yesterday. Not like yesterday when your quarterback was done. It's like, oh, I have nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose by texting Dylan and saying his quarterback's awful.
This whole time,
not like that. Not like yesterday.
I text you every single time Will Levis has a turnover.
We're gonna have to check the tape. We're gonna have to check the tape.
We might have to check the text.
This is just a classic situation to where your situation ended horribly, and you want me to feel bad because of it. Listen, I'm not going to feel bad for having a good quarterback.
It's not that. No, Dylan. Well, he's not a good quarterback. Dylan, this is out of friendship and out of love is why I'm doing this, because I've seen what a bad quarterback can do to you and what is eventually going to happen. I'm just trying to prepare you for when you guys are extremely, extremely terrible, like you are, because the Titans are a poor 0-3 team because of one person, and his name is Will Levis. If Will Levis doesn't turn the ball over, if Ryan Tannehill is playing in these games, the Titans are 2-1.
You can't sit here and tell me that Ryan Tannehill will turn the ball over less than Will Levis. You just can't. I think I can. Ryan Tannehill has turned over the ball in every big moment that I can remember.
Guess what? I think Will Levis has 8 turnovers in 3 games.
But here 8. Do we want
8 turnovers in 3 games?
Do we want to talk about the game? We want to talk about Packers Titans, because here's what I saw from Will Levis. He took sacks. He did not have the dumb turnovers that he had in week 1 and 2. That was something I wanted to see. Now, let's look at the pick 6, right? Great defensive play. Jair Alexander, he read the play great.
Horrific, it's like throw. He was right there. The quarterback cannot make that throw. Jair Alexander was right there.
See, I disagree, because you have Will Johnson taking pick 6s in the exact same situation, and we're heralding the defense.
Bad quarterbacks.
We're heralding the defense. So that was a great defensive play. That's, if you're Will Levis, you learn from that. He didn't have the trash. Oh, I'm in trouble. Let me just try to get the ball out, and then ends up in a scoop and score. That's what I want to see.
No, if you go back and watch the tape,
Will Levis was making throws in the middle of the field, down the field, that he needs to make. That he was making. He's not missing wide open throws. He's making bad decisions.
He missed some wide open throws. He missed some wide open throws in that game. My biggest problem is, Will Levis. We keep doing this thing with Will Levis where we're like, oh, if he could just get rid of the turnovers. If he could just get rid of the turnovers.
The dumb turnovers.
But the issue is, when you have a guy like Will Levis, that's just a part of the game. That's just what that is.
So what do you mean a guy like Will Levis?
Because the type of throws, he makes those risky type of plays constantly, and you're going to turn the ball over. And the style of what he plays, I would compare it to basketball, where if you just take a million shots, you're going to have it. It's very likely you're just going to have less success shooting the ball. If you take 30 shots, you're going to make your percentage worse.
So that little check down screen that was a pick 6 was a risky throw?
What are you talking about?
Well,
that wasn't a
screen. You said Will Levis will turn the ball over on these risky throws.
That wasn't a screen. But also, I just think that was a pitiful throw.
It wasn't a screen. It was a yard down the field? 2 yards down the field?
I was about to say, I thought it was 5.
No, it was not that far down. Listen,
we need to check the tape on that one.
We'll check the tape. Listen, I understand your quarterback's a bust, and now you have nothing to talk about than my quarterback. But my quarterback's still playing.
But the issue is, Dylan, Will Levis is the sole reason why the Titans lost the first 2 games. Yesterday, it could have been the defense. But also, if he doesn't throw that pick 6, we're talking about a totally different game. Will Levis is the sole reason you guys lost to the Bears. True or false?
True.
Okay.
I get true or false now, too. True or false? Okay. That was a talent gap.
A talent gap?
Was that because Will Levis is not talented enough? Did we lose that game because of Will Levis's talent and capability?
Yeah, well,
as a passer.
If you include quarterback decision making as a talent, then yes. Will Levis wasn't there.
Karter, I feel like I'm at a congressional hearing right now. I want a yes or no.
It's okay.
Was that those 2 losses? Okay. The first 2 losses for the Titans, was that because of Will Levis's lack of passing talent? Were those 2 losses because of Will Levis's lack of passing talent?
If you include passing talent with quarterback decision making, I don't think you can separate those. Those are encompassing because the decision making is playing the quarterback position, Dylan.
It would
look.
I understand, but the decisions that he's making, it's easier to say,
pitiful.
"Hey, go down when you're getting touched in the pocket." That is simple. That is not missing wide open receivers down the field. That is go down.
He has been missing wide open receivers. He has also been missing open receivers too.
He hasn't. He hasn't.
Yes, he
If he
has.
has, I haven't seen it. He has been hitting every 10, 15-yard chunk throws, middle of the field, on the sidelines. Like
Both
Levis
can be true. Both can be true, where he is missing people and also making throws.
I
Just because he has a couple 15-yard throws doesn't mean he also doesn't have a few incompletions that he missed.
I said I would give him until week 4 in terms of these dumb decisions. This week I did not see a dumb decision from him. I saw him get free rushed by a linebacker and fumble the ball.
Sure,
I saw him
absolutely.
have a pick 6 of a great read from a cornerback. I did not see the dumb. He was not. He took
the
8
throw.
sacks. He
missed that throw.
He didn't miss the throw was right on him.
What are you? Did you watch the game?
Yes, I watched it. I went back and I watched every single turn. I watched all the highlights. I saw the sacks. This is not Will Levis's
you watched
fault.
the highlights, so you didn't see the actual missed throws that they don't put in the highlights.
They show the missed throws in the condensed replays.
Oh, no. They skip all of those.
In the condensed replays. The
Yes,
44-minute condensed replays.
The 4-minute?
44-minute condensed replays.
44. I thought you said 4 minutes.
Listen,
I was very confused.
Listen here. I understand you whiffed on your number 1 pick, right?
This isn't about the Panthers.
But it
this
is.
about
It's like
Will Levis.
you're bored and you're finding something else to do.
No, I'm not bored. I'm a 1-2 football team. You're an 0-3 football team. We're winning. We're a winning organization here in Carolina.
You have 1 win against the
and how
Raiders.
Many do the Titans? And how many do the Titans have?
They have 0. They have 0.
And I just feel sorry for you. It's really out of friendship and love, Dylan.
Yeah, sure it is. Well, the text you were saying were very friendly and nice, so I appreciate that.
I know. And you were doing the same thing for Bryce Young, where they were out of friendship and love, where you're like, oh, Karter, I just don't want you to have a bad quarterback. And I'm just doing the same to you, Dylan. I'm just doing the same.
Here's what I'm going to say to
when
wrap
you text
up.
Bryce Young is the worst quarterback ever. It's out of love. And I understand that. And I'm just doing it for Will Levis because
But here's the thing. He
is the dumbest quarterback in the league outside of Anthony Richardson.
You were not doing this when Bryce Young was still a starting quarterback. You were not doing the Will Levis is the worst quarterback ever.
No, I did text you whenever he would have a turnover,
but not like yesterday.
Also,
you were mean yesterday.
All my energy was having to be focused on we got to get Bryce Young right, and now I don't have to because Andy Dalton's the guy, and Andy Dalton's probably going to win a Super Bowl for the Carolina Panthers.
Well, you might need to pick up an extra hobby because I can't do this for the rest of the football season.
You
might need to pick up scrapbooking or something.
We won't have to because Will Levis isn't going to be playing the full football season. So it's okay.
Listen. He has Monday Night Football next week. Oh, we'll put a bow in this. I'm not concerned about Will Levis. He is making the throws he needs to make. Great defensive plays for the pick 6. He's getting absolutely mauled. I don't think that keeps happening. I am no doubts about Will Levis moving forward. He's our guy.
I would guarantee you that Titans fans feel very differently. But anyhow, let's move on. Dolphins Seahawks. This is a game where I was not impressed with either team. You can say Dolphins won 24-3. They were playing against a zombie quarterback, a quarterback that physically can't throw the ball. And also, the Dolphins had a real chance at getting back into this game and winning this game if they could just complete a pass in the red zone. Just complete one pass in the red zone. It was pitiful right there. Seahawks win that game. Seahawks 3-0. The Seahawks are I think the Seahawks are a fine team. I think they make the wild card, but it is a little bit of I'm keeping a little side eye on the fraudish 3-0 because their wins are against the Broncos, Pats, and Tua-less Dolphins.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can crown them as being a great team by any means yet. Now, let's see. I can't wait for their first test against the Detroit Lions next week on Monday Night Football.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot wait for that. Then we have Niners-Rams. We really talked about that game already. Lions-Cardinals, we didn't get into that one much. We probably should have talked about that more than the Panthers or Will Levis, to be honest. But I was not impressed with either team in this game.
No, when both teams needed to score, they didn't score. And maybe that's a testament I have a hard time buying into this Cardinals defense, but I do think the
That was
Lions
what I was
defense
gonna
is
say.
much improved from last year. So maybe that says something about their defensive unit. But cash the parlay.
Yeah, it cashed the parlay. What a huge hit. We only need to hit one more, and then we're big time profitable for the season.
Yep.
So we'll hit one more,
And
probably just next week.
If you want to thank me for reversing the curse on the parlay anytime, just let me know. We can do it on the preview show. We can do that.
I think I reversed it because I won Connor a first touchdown bet. So, but sent the good vibes in Saturday morning. I think we both did it.
Yeah, we both
did
teamwork.
It. Yeah, there we go. And also Jared Goff in this game. I was so once again. I'm not going to do this every episode. I don't want to do this. I was just so disappointed that the Lions could not close the game when they had 5 opportunities to do so. Jared Goff was missing people and making horrific decisions, and the play calling was a disaster in this game. Run the football. You have the best offensive line, and you have the best 1-2 punch in the NFL. Use it against a subpar Cardinals defense, and they just overcomplicated things and still came out with the win because that Lions defense was impressive yesterday.
Yeah, it's a huge step up from last year.
Huge step up. Big time. I love that for the Lions defense. And then last one, Chiefs-Falcons, 22-17 last night. We also probably should have talked about this game a little more, but I don't think this game told us anything.
I don't know.
Other than Mahomes is unbelievable. Yes, the pass interference, it probably was a pass interference on Kyle Pitts. Let's say Atlanta scores there. I still think the Chiefs would go down the field and get a field goal and win that game.
So you think it's different when they're down? Because they punted twice.
The Chiefs?
The Chiefs did, yeah.
Yeah, I think with 40 seconds left, you're going to play soft coverage because you don't want to give up the big play, and Pat Mahomes is just going to dice you up every time. We've seen it 1,000 times. You give Pat Mahomes with a couple timeouts and 40 seconds left, he's going to win that game.
I think I'd come away from this game. We talked about the defensive pass interference. Kirk looked great, made some great throws. Chiefs ran the ball very well. I think the difference in this game was Chiefs went 6 for 14 from third down. The Falcons went 2 for 9. And
absolutely.
Go ahead.
And I was going to say, to add to your point for the third downs, the short yardage stuff by the Falcons was absolutely pitiful. I mean, we saw, of course, it's easy to pinpoint to the end of the game, but Bijan Robinson in these short yardage situations is not a great running back. And I don't know if Tyler Algier can be that guy. Maybe he's not. But we saw it last season when it was 3rd and 4th and short. Bijan could not get it done. And the play calling was so predictable by the Falcons at the end of that game because you saw that formation they ran on that last play on 4th and 1. My goodness, you ran the exact same play on the touchdown formation. It's a very unique formation that even I at home can see, oh, they're going to run the same play that they ran where Tyler Algier is going to be the lead blocker and they're going to hand it off to the outside to Bijan Robinson. You think the Chiefs aren't going to know that? You think Steve Spagnuolo is not going to understand what they're running there? Really, really poor play calling by the Atlanta Falcons in that game. But
real quick, another point there.
Ahead, yeah.
I do want to say, I love being aggressive on offense, especially late in the game. But if the Falcons kick a field goal on that second drive, they only need a field goal to go up, and that that might have cost them. I don't know. But that is something where they went for it on 4th on that second to last drive, and I was like, oh, you could kick a field goal here, and I understand not trusting the Falcons defense because really all game they weren't able to stop the Chiefs, but it ended up being take a field goal there, you can kick a field goal on the last drive and take the lead. Now, what would have happened after that? We know Patrick Mahomes, but wanted to point that out there too. I don't leave this game thinking less of the Falcons. I think that's fair. I think they're still a very good team.
No, I really just leave this game thinking, well, Mahomes does it again.
Yep. Chiefs is a field goal favorite or less.
You just got to take it every time. It might be the best bet in sports, but anyhow, and we'll close up shop here. Monday Night Football tonight. We're recording this super early Monday morning. Jags at Bills. We got like a minute 30 on this game that we'll touch on, and then we'll get out of here. We'll do both of these games really quickly. We'll start off Jags-Bills prediction for tonight.
It's boring. I think the Bills win. The Jags haven't looked great, and I think that the Bills have the better quarterback. They have the better defense. Haven't seen anything great from the Jags yet.
I think this is a kitchen sink game for the Jags, and I think we're going to see a much more competitive Jags game, and we're going to see Trevor Lawrence step up in a big way tonight. I think the Jags actually beat the Bills tonight. I'm going Jags money line over the Bills.
Wow. Okay.
And then Commanders-Bengals. Bengals -7. I don't know about this one. I think this might be a little bounce back spot for Joe Burrow, and I can't trust this Commanders defense in this spot. I think the Bengals win by double digits in this game. The Commanders defense just is so pitiful.
Yes, the Commanders defense is really bad. The Bengals are getting back T. Higgins. They have their whole cast of characters back. I think the Commanders keep this one a little bit closer than what people think. I would take the +7. The offense that we've seen from the Commanders hasn't been that bad. And if the Bengals have any issues, it's on their defense. So I think that keeps them in. Over. I hate to say it on primetime. Over.
I love that.
Over.
I love that. Let's ride the over.
Okay,
it's
we'll
an
go
over
game. Tonight.
It's an overs game. Let's go. I'm not taking Bengals -7. We're taking the over. But all right, that's it for the Monday night games. We'll put out for a stupid first touchdown tweet tonight. We'll put out a little silly first touchdown tweet tonight. And make sure to tune into the College Football Show. We got Alabama, Georgia this week.
Oh, so
it's
good.
Alabama, Georgia week. Can't wait for that. Can't wait for the NFL preview. Very excited for that. Download the SeatGeek app. Use code KarterKast. $20 off your first purchase. $50 minimum purchase required. Follow @KarterKast on everything. And make sure to subscribe, rate, review @Wilkerson A. Dillon, @KarterBA, @KarterKast on everything. Subscribe. We're here all football season long. We got some other stuff in the works, Dylan, that we've been talking about. Not football related.
Not football related. Stay
Every
tuned.
other sport related, though. Every other sport related. Can't wait for that. Make sure to tune in, and we'll see y'all next time. Bye.